One wrong step through ancient stones changed everything. A woman searching for answers found herself lost in time, surrounded by danger, fear, and strangers who did not speak her language. And in the middle of that chaos, she met a man she was never meant to love but could never leave. This is where it all began. Not with love, not with destiny, but with survival. Claire Randall did not step into the past by choice. One moment, she was a nurse, a wife, a woman trying to rebuild her life after war. The next, she was standing in a land that did not recognize her clothes, her voice, or her time. The air felt heavier, the silence more dangerous. Every sound meant a threat. Every face could mean death. Claire was no longer protected by logic or reason. She was alone in a world ruled by swords, blood, and fear. Nothing around her made sense. The language was rough and unfamiliar. The rules were cruel and unforgiving. Men carried weapons as if they were part of their bodies. Women watched quietly, careful not to speak too much. Claire's confidence, which once saved lives in hospitals, now made her a target. She stood out. And in this time, standing out could get you killed. Fear followed her like a shadow, but Claire refused to surrender to it. She observed. She listened. She learned. Her mind stayed sharp even as her heart raced. She knew one mistake could cost her everything. She needed allies even if she didn't trust them. Survival came before comfort, before morals, before hope. That is when fate intervened, not gently, but violently. A group of Highlanders appeared, rough and guarded, carrying the weight of danger in their eyes. They did not see Claire as a miracle or a mystery. They saw her as a problem, a risk, someone who could expose them. And yet, among them was one man who did not look at her with suspicion alone. Jamie Fraser did not enter Claire's life as a hero. He arrived broken, bleeding, and hunted. His body was injured, his shoulder torn and useless, his face pale from pain. He was not powerful in that moment. He was vulnerable. And that vulnerability changed everything. Claire noticed him immediately, not because he was handsome, but because he was human. In a world that felt cold and cruel, Jamie carried warmth in his eyes. He watched her carefully, but without fear, without threat. There was curiosity there, respect, something rare in a place ruled by force. Their first interaction was not romantic. It was practical, necessary. Claire saw an injury. Jamie saw someone who knew how to heal. No promises were spoken. No emotions were named. But something passed between them in silence, an understanding that neither fully grasped yet. As Claire worked to ease Jamie's pain, time seemed to pause. The noise faded. The danger blurred. For a brief moment, they were just two people trying to survive the same nightmare. Claire's hands were steady, trained by years of war. Jamie trusted her without question, even though trust in her could have cost him his life. This was not love at first sight. This was trust at first breath. Jamie did not flirt. He did not boast. He did not try to impress her. His strength showed not in words, but in patience. In the way he endured pain without complaint. In the way he thanked her with his eyes instead of his mouth. Claire, used to men who spoke loudly and acted quickly, noticed the difference. In that moment, neither of them knew what they were beginning. They did not know that this meeting would lead to sacrifice, separation, and a love strong enough to break time itself. All they knew was that something felt different, safe, familiar, as if they had met before. Somewhere beyond memory. The world around them remained dangerous. Redcoats hunted the highlands. Death waited in forests and villages alike. Claire was still trapped. Jamie was still wounded. Nothing was resolved. But one thing had changed. Claire was no longer completely alone, and Jamie Fraser had just met the woman who would become his fate. Claire did not trust easily. And in this world, she had every reason not to. Every face around her carried questions she could not answer. Every step forward felt like a gamble with death. Yet when she looked at Jamie, she felt something unexpected, not comfort, but calm. In a land filled with raised voices and quick violence, Jamie's quiet presence stood apart. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words carried care instead of command. Jamie watched Claire the same way. She did not move like the others. She asked questions men in this time never allowed women to ask. She challenged orders without raising her voice. And when danger closed in, she did not freeze. She acted. That alone earned his respect. But it was her courage, untrained, unprotected, and honest, that stayed with him. Their conversations were short, careful, and often interrupted by danger. Yet in those brief moments, something rare formed between them. Not romance, not desire, understanding. Jamie did not see Claire as a burden. Claire did not see Jamie as a threat. In a world that demanded sides, they stood somewhere in between. Pain forced them closer. Jamie's injury worsened with every mile they traveled. Claire insisted on helping, even when it put her at risk. She could have stayed silent. She could have stepped back. But she didn't. She chose action over safety, and Jamie noticed. Every wince he hid, every breath he struggled to take, she saw it all. And still she stayed. Jamie never questioned her skills. He never doubted her knowledge. In his eyes, she was not strange, she was capable. That respect was rare, and Claire felt it. For the first time since arriving in this brutal time, someone looked at her as if she belonged somewhere, even if only for a moment. Around them, danger continued to close in. Soldiers hunted the highlands. Trust was fragile. One wrong word could expose them all. But in the quiet moments, between footsteps, between orders, between fear, Claire and Jamie shared glances that said more than words ever could. They were still strangers. Still divided by time, culture, and fate. Yet something invisible had already tied them together. Not love, not destiny, but choice. Again and again, they chose to protect each other without fully knowing why. This was how it began. Not with promises or passion, but with silence, trust, and two souls recognizing safety in each other long before they understood the cost. Jamie Fraser was not the kind of man who demanded attention. In a world where strength was proven by shouting orders and swinging swords, his power lived in restraint. Claire noticed this quickly. He spoke only when needed. He watched first. He protected without announcing it. And somehow, that made him stand taller than the rest. As they moved through forests and narrow paths, danger followed closely behind. Every snap of a branch raised fear. Every shadow felt alive. Jamie placed himself between Claire and that danger without asking if she needed it. He didn't see it as bravery. He saw it as responsibility. And Claire saw it as something rare, care without control. Claire had spent years surrounded by men who believed power meant dominance. Jamie was different. He listened when she spoke. He waited when she disagreed. Even when others questioned her presence, Jamie's loyalty never wavered. He did not defend her loudly, but he stood firm. And in this world, quiet loyalty meant everything. Pain was still written across his face. His shoulder remained injured, every movement a reminder of how vulnerable he truly was. Yet Jamie never used that pain to gain sympathy. He carried it with dignity. Claire, trained to see suffering, understood how much strength that required. It drew her closer, even as she tried to remind herself that closeness was dangerous. Their bond deepened in the smallest moments. A shared glance during tense silence. A slight nod of trust before taking a risk. A pause before speaking, as if their thoughts were learning to move together. They did not realize it yet, but they were already beginning to rely on one another. Jamie trusted Claire's mind. Claire trusted Jamie's instincts. Together, they became something stronger than they were alone. Not a couple. Not lovers, survivors. Around them, the world remained unforgiving. This time did not welcome outsiders. It punished weakness. It tested loyalty at every turn. But through all of it, Claire felt something new growing inside her, not hope, but certainty. She was meant to meet this man. Not for comfort. Not for safety. But because their paths had crossed for a reason she could not yet understand. This was not love blooming. It was the foundation being laid. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. In silence, in danger, and in quiet strength, Claire had spent every second since arriving in the past searching for a way out. An escape, a path back to the life she knew. Survival came first, but return was always her goal. Yet something began to shift, slowly, quietly, and she did not notice it at first. It happened in the moments when Jamie spoke her name. Not as a command, not as a warning, but as if it mattered. In this harsh world, names carried weight. And when Jamie said hers, it sounded like belonging. Claire felt it in the pause of her breath, in the way her heart slowed instead of raced. For the first time, Claire stopped seeing Jamie as just protection. She began to see him as a man shaped by loss, duty, and kindness. His scars were not only on his body. They lived in his silence, in the way he accepted pain as if it were expected. Claire recognized that look. She had worn it herself during the war. Jamie, in turn, saw past Claire's strength. He noticed the fear she hid behind her sharp words and steady hands. He sensed her loneliness, even when she stood tall. And instead of questioning her past, he gave her space to carry it. That quiet understanding bound them closer than words ever could. The danger around them did not fade. If an